Well, Daniel and Britt, some of those protesters gathered here inside the Travis County building behind me to wait and hear what the county attorney would say. Right now, the creek just down the street here has not risen over the road just yet, but it could. That's what the city fears in the next few hours, along with other low water crossings being affected across this area. Texas Democrats have long claimed that the state is much more competitive than it has really shown in terms of a historical context. You know, a Democrat has not won statewide here in Texas in 30 years. This polling location, which is surrounded by campaign signs that you see right behind me here, sits in a solid Republican Texas House district. Do you see students voicing opposition to what Israel is doing in Gaza as anti-Semitic? We've seen the cloud cover break here and there, and right now the sun is shining, so fingers crossed that this will stick around for a little while longer. But I just want to show you, you hear the music back here behind me. A block party is happening on Main Street in Marble Falls. The crowd is gathered over here. Some are eating food, some are dancing a little bit. I kind of find it funny that my dream as a kid was to become an Olympic gymnast. That was what I wanted to grow up and do. Gun violence recently hit close to home, devastating the loved ones of those killed in Round Rock.
Now my family is left with a void.
It hurts, it does, but I'm getting through.
This tragedy underscores the work to prevent deadly shootings.
We're seeing the rise in violent crimes involving guns, and it is our job to respond to those trends.
Shayna Fox leads the Council on At-Risk Youth, a nonprofit that held more than 1,800 students in Central Texas this year with skills to avoid violence and crime.
We are a school-based mental health program where we do individual and group counseling, and we are at 20 schools around Central Texas.
Early intervention like this is part of the recommendations from the U.S. Surgeon General.
Firearm violence is a public health crisis.
Along with community violence prevention programs like ATX Peace.
Our mission, number one, is to end gun violence, period. Now, the way that we do that is that we have violence interrupters.
They're putting themselves in between two people sometimes that want to harm each other with guns.
Since starting almost 2 years ago, ATX Peace says it helps stop at least 15 retaliatory shootings from happening. It, along with other groups, credit money from the city and county for helping grow their work, and they're counting on the Surgeon General's latest announcement to boost that support in the next budget process.
We need more funding to continue to support the efforts that we have already in place.
Honestly, since this is my first time voting for president, it's meaningful, I guess.
The election this November is different for Caleb Brizuela. He finally gets to cast a ballot for president, and the 21-year-old says he's excited to support Kamala Harris.
Even though she may be older, she's giving us that youthful energy, and she's giving us that something we can relate to, and I think that's what people want.
He says his friends are now more engaged in the race too, and that enthusiasm could factor into how Democrats perform in Texas, according to this familiar voice.
I don't know, but I can tell you in Texas, which Barack Obama lost by 16 points in 2012, Hillary Clinton lost by 9 points in 2016, and Joe Biden only lost by 5.4% in 2020. This is really the sleeper battleground state.
That phrase, used by Beto O'Rourke, trended this week on social media. Republicans, though, question whether he's worth listening to still, since he lost 2 statewide races. And as James Henson with the Texas Politics Project points out,
This has been the dog that hasn't barked for a long time.
He says more would have to happen for Texas to become a true battleground.
Whether we've crossed the threshold that will attract effort, volunteers, enthusiasm, and maybe most importantly, money, I think is still a little bit of an open question.
The race is now much more competitive than it was a month ago.
While that may be true, Travis County Republican Chairman Matt Makoviak expects Texas not to be in the small mix of states that will ultimately decide who sits in the White House.
And in the end, it might even be more simple than that. Whoever wins Pennsylvania will likely be the next president of the United States.
Lawmakers filed thousands of bills, a record 5,300 in the House alone, yet only a small fraction of those deal with toll reforms. And if history is any indication, they may stall before the session ends. Texas lawmakers waded through an ocean of bills filed this year. And since a legislative session lasting only 140 days goes by quickly, a few issues floated to the top of the priority list.
School choice, property tax relief, school security and safety.
This time around, a topic impacting Texas drivers barely made a splash. Legislators put forward a limited number of proposals, just 8 bills we could find to change how the state's tolling systems operate.
This is one of those things that I think that is the proper role of state government, looking out for the people of Texas and protecting them.
Republican Senator Bob Hall reintroduced a bill that he's filed every session since taking office in 2015. The legislation would create a uniform billing system for toll operators and limit the fees they can charge if a driver does not pay on time. Hall says that remains the source of a lot of complaints.
They'll send the bill to the wrong address or to an old address. It'll build late fees on top of late fees on top of late. The next thing you know, for a $5, $3 toll bill, they've got hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in fines.
Drivers facing big toll bills could get some help if another state lawmaker has his way.
We have a package of bills to help provide some immediate relief to working Texans across our state.
Democratic Representative James Tallarico proposed using some of the state's budget surplus to cover the cost of tolls for 1 year.
You know, unfortunately, our state has refused to invest in public highways and roads like we used to, and now we're putting it on the backs of Texans to pay for their own roads. During this time of global inflation, I think it's the least we can do to provide a little bit of relief with these toll fees.
In previous sessions, a few lawmakers spoke out more than others about billing and technology problems that persist with Texas tolling systems.
I think Texas needs a wholly different way to look at this.
You can get a text tag that's supposed to be good in Houston, in Dallas, in El Paso.
Those lawmakers are no longer at the state capitol, but the leaders who do remain.
Texans pay twice.
Say they'll keep pushing forward their fixes despite any roadblocks.
When you do it a couple of times and people come to understand that what the lobby is telling them is not true and that they're actually serving the people of Texas, they tend to change their positions on things.
I'm hopeful this is not a red issue or a blue issue. I hope this is an issue we can all support.
Those lawmakers told us that toll reform in Texas usually meets a lot of pushback, mostly, they say, from the tolling entities themselves.